Now please give it up for Caetlin McFadden.
I always hated Superman. Really, I did. I found him to be the most basic and predictable hero. He was a guy with superhuman strength whose only weakness was an alien substance. I guess I just needed more depth than that because I always had an affinity for characters like The Flash, Magneto, and Black Panther, the ones who went through strange or extremely traumatic experiences. But this was all based on my personal preference, and what a lot of us don't realize is that our favorite superheroes actually tell us a lot about who we are and the way that we think. And that's actually going to be a key base supporting my argument as to why superheroes are so much more than just entertainment. They have profound effects on all of us individually and on our society as a whole. Jake Kraska is a writer for Lateral Magazine, and he published an article titled "The Psychology of Comic Books: Why We Worship Superheroes." And he begins by discussing the American societal changes depicted in comic books since 1938. A prime example of this can be seen in the World War II era Captain America comics. You know, the army man who fought Hitler himself and then inspired thousands of Americans to get involved in war relief efforts. He makes us all look pretty bad, but a more recent example can be seen in Marvel Comics' North Star, Marvel's first gay superhero announced in 1992. These characters reflect societal change, and that helps us to change our opinions in a way that depicts an ever-evolving social standard. We can actually change our morals based on the way these heroes act, especially if they're the heroes that we look up to. And there's also this crazy new thing that psychologists have begun to embrace and label as geek therapy. I'm not making it up, and I'm really glad I'm not, because it's so cool. But one of these psychologists, his name is Dr. Patrick O'Connor, and he began to incorporate geek therapy into his sessions in 2010. And he actually stated that superheroes are so much more than entertainment. They help us to understand and to analyze our deepest fears. So what O'Connor does in his sessions is he introduces comic books, action figures, and superheroes to the patients, and their response is astounding. They begin to open up and to share what it is with him that they're really feeling, even if it's only through subliminal messages, like who their favorite superhero is. Upon the beginnings of his research, O'Connor read hundreds of comic books, and he began to pinpoint common themes in each one relating to the human experience. A couple of them were facing a fear, losing a loved one, or just being different. And when his patients read these comic books, they felt for those themes. They related to them. They had the same problems as a superhero. Can you imagine how important that must have made them feel? And not only did he get an incredible response from his patients psychologically, but they actually explained to him that they were starting to enjoy therapy. Therapy for the first time became fun. Now, switching gears just a little bit, I also want to focus in on superhero origin stories. You know, every single remake of the original Batman and Superman comics into a movie where they explain how they became super and a hero all in a timely matter of 2 hours. Well, if we already know these stories, then why do we keep going and seeing these bad remakes? It's because we love to figure out how characters with extraordinary capabilities choose to overcome their desires and walk the path of justice. These stories are teaching us. They're teaching us how to adapt and how to overcome. In an article titled "The Psychology of Superhero Origin Stories," psychologist Robin Rosenberg classified heroes into 3 groups of life-altering experiences that they must endure in order to become superheroes. The first of these is trauma, and a good example of that can be seen in Batman or Bruce Wayne witnessing the murder of his parents at a very young age. And the second is sheer chance. Think Spider-Man and the radioactive spider. It doesn't happen every day. And the third, and my personal favorite, is destiny. And I can't help myself but to use Dr. Stephen Strange as an example. But what all 3 of these categories have in common is that we too can endure these experiences and have them change our lives. The only difference between us and the heroes is the way we choose to respond to these situations, the way we overcome. And not all of us end up with the Batcave's spidey senses and the ability to harness the energy of the universe. But we just don't talk about it. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that we don't love superheroes because they're entertaining. We love superheroes because of the mere possibility that we too can become superheroes. They're not here for the action, the good looks, and the Stan Lee cameo. They're our role models. They teach us how to view each other and how to view ourselves. So in closing, I want to encourage all of you today to go out and embrace your inner Green Lantern or Star-Lord. Honestly, if you're into it, embrace your inner Aquaman. But just remember that your favorite superhero, they're based on you. Thank you.